We are in Psalm 112. And as a way to segue into Psalm 112, I'm going to read to you something funny. I want to show you something from a news. I looked up the Tacoma News-Tribune from January 1983, and it's full of really, really funny things because they're so long ago. We saw there's a picture of President Reagan touring some flooded area in Louisiana. There's advertisements for a grocery store. It says you can buy a bottle of Clorox bleach for 78 cents. It says a 24-ounce thing of Hunt's ketchup is 88 cents. Is that good? Is that a lot cheaper? Oh, how about that? A Bounty paper towels, 100 count Bounty paper towels. I don't know if that means whatever, but anyway, 68 cents. Mrs. Butterworth's pancake syrup, 24 ounce, $1.78. So, but that's not what I was going to show you. What I was actually going to show you is something very interesting on page 28. There's a lot of talk. A lot of people are interested in the concept of whether America is a Christian nation, and that's not what the psalm is about. But I was really struck as I thought about our psalm, which we'll get to in a moment. And then I just looked at a random older date from a semi-local newspaper. I grew up with the News-Tribune because I'm from Tacoma. And as I look at the obituaries for this day, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 9 obituaries for that day, and 7 of them, the people were Christians. And that's really interesting to me. And what's particularly interesting is how none of us, these are people who, I don't know, how fervent they were, if they were really Christians or whatever, but they went to a Christian church, 7 of the 9, and they lived their whole lives, or a good part of their lives, dedicated to the Lord at that church. And we have no idea who they are. They're just anonymous people. We've never heard of them before. Probably not heard of them before. We have, if I can make this work for me, we have, hold on, no, that's the wrong one. Okay, where is it? Okay, I don't want the Jehovah's Witness. Okay, come on now. Where'd they all go? Okay, John McRobbie, 76, lived in Sumner. He died on January 3rd, 1983, and Mr. McRobbie was a member of the First Assembly of God Church in Puyallup and a member of the Machinists Union. Go Machinists. So that is good. But we probably have no idea who he is, and we can assume that he spent years, decades, serving the Lord in that place. We have no idea who he is. God knows who he is, but we have no idea who he is. We have Pearl Wirtz, 89 years old. If name's Pearl, you know that this is an older lady. Mm-hmm. So she was born in, she was 89, so she was born in 1896. She was born in Michigan, had been a resident of Tacoma since 62. She was a member of the First Presbyterian Church. Again, we have no idea who Pearl is, but God knows who she is. We have, who else? I'll do one more. Ida Thompson, a former telephone operator, died Saturday at the age of 82. She was born in North Dakota, lived in Tacoma most of her life. She was a lifelong member of Messiah Lutheran Church. So we have never heard of Phyllis is the Jehovah's Witness. We never heard of John, Pearl, or Ida. None of us have heard of them, but they're Christians, professing Christians who serve the Lord faithfully, and he knows who they are, and we do not. And the reason why that's interesting to me is when you look at Psalm 112, Psalm 112 is just a simple psalm of encouragement for ordinary people who just try to live lives of righteousness, not to gain salvation, but just they love God, so they just want to live lives that honor him and reflect who he is. And this is just simply what God wants from us. He doesn't want us to be, he doesn't call us to be these ultra famous people or to do all these big things that we read about. He just wants Christians to be ordinary people who live the lives and the circumstances he gives them, who just try, because they love him, just try to live out his holiness and righteousness and his gospel to be a light to the world. And that's it. This psalm is just a simple psalm about verse 1, blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who greatly delights in his commandments. And that's all the psalm is about. You are blessed if you fear the Lord and you delight in his commandments. It doesn't mean you're perfect, but it means your heart is that I love God and I want to try and do what he says. And if that's your heart, if that sums up your life, then you're a blessed person. God has blessed you. He smiles upon you. This is all that God wants from us. We're going to see a description of Barnabas on Sunday from Acts chapter 11. Just a simple little description of the guy. And it's beautiful, and that's all God wants from us. We read about, I mentioned John, Pearl, and Ida. So they're like 80 years old in 1983. So if they had kids, say their kids were in their 50s, that's 40 years gone. Their kids are probably gone now. So if anyone is alive who remembers John, Pearl, and Ida, it's probably their grandkids, and their grandkids are in their 50s right now. No one remembers them. No one remembers their careers, all the blood, sweat, and tears, and all the whatever they put into whatever their careers were, their gardens, their things that were, whatever was important to them. No one remembers any of that. And none of it's lasting. Even if they did have a nice garden, I'm sure it's gone now, 2 renovations down the road. But what does last is if they just faithfully just serve God as best they can and try and obey his word because they love him. That's the legacy that God looks at that has eternal value, your relationship with God and what you do with the life that he's given you. And this psalm just expresses an ordinary person's life and what a faithful life looks like. Nothing big, nothing huge, nothing, quote, epic, just ordinary faithfulness, like John and Ida and Pearl. People who we've never heard of who served the Lord their whole lives at different churches. So we have, blessed is the man who fears the Lord, who greatly delights in his commandments, which is like the basic point of the whole psalm. His offspring will be mighty in the land. The generation of the upright will be blessed. Wealth and riches are in his home, and his righteousness endures forever. These are just normal Old Testament ways of describing righteousness. Your children will be blessed. You'll be blessed you'll be blessed materially. But the point is that this is just someone who just loves God and wants to do what he says. What does verse 4 remind you of? Light dawns in the darkness for the upright. He is gracious, merciful, and righteous. What is that depicting, you think? Light dawns in the darkness for the upright.
It's better for those who are with Christ than those who are not, who are with God.
Okay, so you think it's like your life is full of light if you love God, sort of thing.
More so than the dark are the people who aren't.
Okay, is there another way that we could take that? Light dawns in the darkness for the upright. It's picturing people who love God and who he's declared them to be righteous, and they're in darkness. In what way would you be righteous in God's eyes, but yet be in darkness? And now a light suddenly shines in the darkness towards you. What is that sort of getting at? I mean, it's poetry, but what is it trying to say?
If you're in a bad situation or something bad is happening to you and you keep being righteous, then you'll be delivered out of it.
God gives hope for the righteous, maybe.
Yeah.
Hope.
Yeah, I think that's what it's getting at. He's not picturing this fake world where if you love God, nothing bad will ever happen to you. He's picturing a world where if you love God, even in the midst of darkness, his light of comfort and hope and a promise of something better than this shines through the darkness of whatever it is you're going through and shows you that there is hope, that there is something more. He's describing just what a normal, quote, boring, ordinary, faithful life of a believer is like. Light dawns in the darkness for the upright. He is gracious, merciful, and righteous, talking about the character of someone who loves God and wants to do what he says. It is well, and now we're getting to brass tacks. It is well with the man who deals generously and lends, who conducts his affairs with justice. You care about your brothers and sisters. If they need help, you try and help them. There's Old Testament law about that kind of thing. We don't have the same sort of thing now, but the principle is the same. It's well with the person who loves his brothers and sisters, who lives his life according to justice and isn't a sleazy sort of person who skirts the laws and skirts the rules and is just some sort of slimy person. It's well, for the righteous will never be moved. He will be remembered forever. That's really, really interesting. The person who's righteous will be remembered forever. By who? By God. We don't know who Ida is. I don't know anything about the lady. I don't know if you can go to that church, if it still exists, and even find someone who knew who she was. So we forget because we keep passing off the scene and new people keep coming. But God remembers the righteous forever. God remembers our simple faithfulness, our simple, ordinary lives that we might not think are that important. God says a faithful life is important. He remembers it. He's not afraid of bad news. Why? Because his heart is firm, trusting in the Lord. His heart is steady. He will not be afraid until he looks in triumph on his adversaries. He's distributed freely. He's given to the poor, talking about in the community, not the guy on the off-ramp who has a sign that says got weed. We're talking about, the guy, the people in the community. I've seen that guy. I saw him once on the off-ramp for, what is that road? For Pacific, off I-5. I saw him there once. That was really weird. But anyway, we're talking about people in need in the community. He's given to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. What you do for God endures forever because he remembers. He remembers all of it, even when we forget. His righteousness endures forever. His horn is exalted in honor. And then it contrasts that with someone who doesn't have any of that, who doesn't have hope, who doesn't have any light that shines into them from the darkness and reminds them there's something better waiting in the life after this. The wicked man sees it and is angry. He sees the church's people in the church, their peace, their comfort, their clinging on to something bigger than what's going on here as a way to get through today. And they see this trust and allegiance in God who's bigger than their circumstances. Sees it and is angry. He gnashes his teeth and melts away. What is that melting away thing? What is that picture?
Mine says he slinks away, his hopes thwarted.
That's because you have the New Living Translation. So he gnashes his teeth and melts away, sort of like a person who literally, I guess that's pretty much right.
Back into the shadows.
Yeah, he just sort of like slinks away, sort of sidles away back into the corner or something. He doesn't have any hope. He has no peace. He has no joy because he doesn't have any trust in anything ultimate. He's just trusting in his job, his career, or whatever the thing is that he's latched onto as the thing of ultimate meaning. Not like Ecclesiastes says, not realizing that all of that's going to go away one day, and then someone will just take everything you spent your life building and destroy it or whatever. There's a guy who lived next door to Starla's parents' house, lived there for 100 million years, and he passed away 2 years ago. This guy took such beautiful care of his yard. He was in his yard all the time. He had a beautiful yard, a big lot, so beautiful for decades. He kept it up, and it was just like Japanese garden worthy beautiful. And he died, and the lot's been subdivided, and the whole yard's destroyed, and it just looks like a weed infested pit. I'm like, so it's not saying that the things you do in life here don't matter. It's that they only have ultimate meaning insofar as the only things that have ultimate meaning are what we do for the Lord and for his glory. It doesn't mean gardening's pointless. It means that it doesn't have many things we do don't have ultimate significance. So when we put our trust, our heart into things, we need to put them into things that reflect God and his righteousness instead of our garden that's going to be subdivided and bulldozed, soon after we die, or whatever it is. The wicked guy sees that, and that's what irritates him. That's what makes him angry. That's what makes him slink away, gnashing his teeth. The desire of the wicked will perish. This is just meant to be a simple psalm about what it means to live an ordinary life and trust in the Lord, to be righteous. What does it look like to be someone who's been made righteous by God? Someone who fears God and greatly delights in his commandments. So it's a psalm of wisdom to tell us what it means to live a God-fearing life. It's a simple prescription. And it also reorients our thinking so we think about our lives and our meaning and purpose here in a more comprehensive way, in a better way.